What is up, my friends? We are back as promised, and let's discuss, well, lots of stuff. We're going to talk about the transfer window. We're going to ask who let themselves down out there today, and maybe who did themselves justice, if any. Appreciate everyone that joined us for the watch along earlier on, and of course, everyone that joined us for the match reaction and submitted their player ratings as well. We do appreciate you. So yeah, look, it wasn't great viewing that today, was it? If we're being honest with ourselves, but if anything, maybe this gives Arna more ammunition to put towards the owners to say, look, we need this player, and this player. So tonight, I thought we'd focus on that. What needs to change in the summer, how we can make this squad better, and most importantly, how we can go into next season feeling like we can defend this Premier League title. Loads to talk about tonight. We're going to be giving you some comments from Arne Slot. We're going to be speaking about Darwin Núñez. We're going to be talking about Rodrigo. Yep, Rodrigo from Real Madrid. And loads of other bits and pieces. As always, though, appreciate you giving up some of your Sunday evening to have a chat with me, especially on the day that's in it. It was a tough watch this afternoon. Let's be honest about it. It was. We didn't really play well. We didn't deserve anything from the game. But I don't like losing to Chelsea at the best of times, to be honest. Did I say to be honest? I meant to be honest, because I'm going to say to be honest a few more times. But look, let's get stuck into it, folks. Evening, Craig said, Anita. Thought Endo did well. Yes, Philip, very well. Definitely the man of the match for me, and for you guys as well, because you did vote for your Anfield Agenda man of the match, and it was Endo. But yeah, other than him, I don't think there are too many players out there today that were pushing for a start that will have convinced the manager. I mean, I thought Cody Gakpo did okay in today's game, but the big disappointments for me came in three positions, shall we say. Trent, Jota, Darwin. They're the three disappointments for me. Elliott probably isn't going to convince the manager either if he plays like he did today. Jones, we can talk about, but he's not going anywhere. But I think if we're talking about the future, again, I know I keep bleating on about Trent, but that was shocking today for me from him out there. Just no desire at all to put in any effort. I thought we seen a big difference when Bradley came on. And Diogo and Jota, or Diogo and Darwin, I want moved on for very different reasons. Diogo, I just think time's catching up with him, and father time maybe and injuries are slowing him down, and he isn't the player that he was even a year ago. So I think if the right offer comes in, I'd move him on. And Darwin, well, he's just not very good at the old football, is he? Unfortunately. I think the overlay source is hidden in that saver. No, it did that thing again, Connor, where you would have had to log in. So I did what you told me to do, which is hide it. Rob Wilson said, only one to do themselves justice was Endo. Nomad said, please, I'm really disappointed with Harvey today. I had high hopes from him in this game. Yeah, look, he didn't convince anyone there today, and that was a team that was strong enough that we can say there are some excuses that, like the Plymouth game, as an example, there was so many changes there that I just don't think it was good enough today at all. And look, you can say it's because the league title was already won, or it was a drop of intensity, or whatever. But ultimately, I just felt like we didn't do ourselves justice out there today. And players like Elliott, players like Diogo, Trent, just meh. That's all I can say. It was a weird one to judge for Alisson. I didn't really know what to make of Alisson's performance when I was giving the player ratings, because he didn't do too much wrong, but yet we conceded 3 goals. Virgil scored a goal, but of course then kicked one in off Jerel Kwanzaa as well. So let's have a look. Stephen Shanton said, sell Costas, Jota, Darwin should get about 100 million to add to the transfers. Well, let's talk about Darwin first and foremost, because there was a report about him earlier on. So let's bring that one up and we'll get stuck into the news. Right, so coming from Spain, this piece said, Liverpool will consider allowing Darwin Núñez to leave on loan this summer with an obligation to buy for around 40 to 45 million euro. Atletico Madrid are interested in the Uruguayan striker. So this one very much confuses me, because my initial thoughts on this were absolutely no way in hell should Liverpool be loaning Darwin Núñez out. But I kind of understand it as well. Like, clubs may want to see what they get, but then again, if it's with an obligation to buy, they're going to have to pay up no matter what happens. So as long as it doesn't affect what Arna can do in the summer, I don't really mind whichever way the club get rid of Darwin Núñez. Genuinely, I don't. I just want rid of at this point because he's frustrating as hell to watch and doesn't seemingly want to take any ownership of his errors. And that header today, again, just summed it all up. So yeah, look, him on loan, nah, I'd rather sell. But if it was a loan with an obligation and it's a cast iron obligation with no wiggle room to get out of, then if the club are okay with it and a move Darwin on, whatever it is, it is. After the Guard of Honour, they should be ashamed of themselves, said with Ashwak. Yeah, look, the Guard of Honour is to make sure that you get the credit for being Premier League champions. And Chelsea gave the Guard of Honour, and fair play to them. But you then want to back that up on the pitch with a performance of champions, right? And I know people are going to say, Craig, it was a nothing game. But it gives Chelsea a chance to get into the Champions League, and it increases their spending power if they do that. When we go head-to-head with them for certain players, it might or might not have an impact on that. And that's what worried me most about today. That, and I don't really like Chelsea very much. I don't think I need to explain the reasoning why. I think probably for the very same reason a lot of you guys and girls don't like them. Stevie Boy said, what's with Mo? Oh, why isn't this coming up? On my overlay. Okay, that's why. 1 second. I can't bring up the super chats if I do it this way. Now I see what Connor's done. But if I don't bring it back on and I put the other overlay on, then it won't work. So sorry, I'm talking out loud here to myself. Where's the new one? Yeah, so if I do that, that'll appear on the screen and I can bring Stevie's super chat up. I think. No, I give up with this system, lads. I give up. Right, I'm just going to have to read it out, Stevie boy. Sorry, because as always, technology's acting up. Yeah, technology's acting up on me, mate. So I'll read it out anyway. He said, what's with Mo not even being subbed? Had a terrible game. Can't play him every minute of every game. I guess when he's hunting records, Stevie boy, that's probably the hope. That he gets an assist or something later in the game. It's the only thing I can think of. Today he was terrible as well. Absolutely terrible. And I understand where you're coming from. You couldn't have had any complaints if he was taken off, but he was awful, as was most of that forward line today. I thought Gakpo was the only starter that was in any way decent. Roger, thank you, mate, for your membership with us for 11 months. You said, missed the game today. What happened? 3-1. What happened is we didn't really get going, is the honest answer. Chelsea got a goal early doors with a runner that, I don't exaggerate when I say this, had probably 7 yards around him in every direction where there was nobody near him. So Enzo broke into the box late and scored. And from that point on, we never really looked like we were going to get back into that game. The second goal was a calamity of errors defensively, which led to Virgil van Dijk kicking it in off one of our own players. Yeah, it's... oh, they're coming back up now, are they? Oh, Connor's bringing the button manually, I think, at his end. Yeah, I'm getting very confused by what's going on, sorry. So, yeah. I'm very confused because I'm not pressing these buttons. So I think Connor's bringing these up on the back end system or something, sorry. We were terrible, mate, is the honest answer. Today was a day that, as somebody pointed out, when you have a week between games, you want better than that. You know, you can say the league has won, but we still, as fans, want to see us winning and want to see us playing well. And the ones that travel down from Liverpool to London, you know, for all these reasons, every game matters. And the players will get their holiday at the end of the season, but I just hate losing to Chelsea. That's one way I'd put it. I just hate losing to Chelsea because I don't like the what's the word I'm looking for? Behaviour of a lot of their fan base in the way that they belittle Liverpool financially and in every other way. What team do you think was the better? 21-22 or 24-25? So, the team that won the first league title, I think without any doubt was a better team, in my opinion. Now, there are players that have come in and would get into that team and do well in it, but I think the team that won the first league title would be the better one for me. Look right across it. Like Firmino, Mane, better than what we have there now in either position, I would say. Um, yeah, I just feel like it was a better team. And I'm getting really wound up by the way that we play this slow build-up. It's not enjoyable to watch, the way we move the ball so slowly in front of the opposition. And I could pick 3 patterns of play that you've probably seen 10 times a game for the last season. And that is these little triangles on either side where ball comes in out to Mohamed Salah. Mohamed Salah cuts inside and tries a slide rule pass down the 18-yard box. Our patterns of play are so repetitive that I can't help but think at times opposition managers are able to see those vulnerabilities. And that late break and run from Enzo Fernandez with nobody tracking him, that really annoyed me. Really annoyed me. Craig Adams, thank you, mate, for being a member with us for 23 months as well. You said you kind of bringing the wrong one up. This just isn't working. Craig said we looked better when Bradley came on. Trent shouldn't start again, and he shouldn't. You're right. Sonny Hughes said, at the end of the day, we're still champions, so it doesn't really matter. No point in getting annoyed. I never thought we'd win that game anyway. Of course there's a point in getting annoyed, mate. And 2 things can be right at once, Sonny. So what you've said is correct. We are Premier League champions. But every time we step out onto the pitch, I think it matters. And I think that the players have to show that playing for Liverpool Football Club matters. And like I said, I gave you my reasoning for today. I want to keep Chelsea out of the Champions League. And I don't like losing the first game after winning the title. Especially when you're getting the Guard of Honour. It just doesn't sit well with me. Trent, I thought, was disgraceful. Darwin is just not very good at football. And Diogo, I actually just feel bad for the way things have gone there. So, look, I get your point, but to me it does matter. And we are still champions. But at the end of the day, mate, we don't want to be giving encouragement to Chelsea to get into those positions. And it's probably one of those games where Arne Slot feels vindicated for his decisions throughout the season. Right, I want to get to Godsink as well. Said crazy thought, but Szoboszlai is a centre forward. He's got the physique. No, he just doesn't have the finishing ability. The only way we should be sorting out a centre forward now is by going out into the market and spending big money to get one. That's it. There's the season of trying everybody else through the middle is done and dusted now, and we've gotten to win the league title, so now let's go and just bring in the centre forward that we need. And that means getting rid of Darwin, and I would say get rid of Jota as well. But I want to just come back to Trent for a minute again, because it's easy at days like today for me to maybe get carried away. But really, I just felt like he didn't care. And he was playing that game like his mind was elsewhere. His body wasn't being put at risk. And I wonder, is the only reason he started because of Bradley? And I hope it is, because I hope he doesn't start the next game, because he was terrible. And you can see clearly his mind is wandering. And look, journalists will tell you I'm wrong. The manager will tell you every player tries 100%, but I don't really care, because I don't need other people to tell me what I see with my own eyes. And what I seen today again there from Trent wasn't the first, second or third time I've seen that type of performance from him. So 1 minute you're ripping off your shirt and you're pounding your chest and you're giving it the big one, and then you go out and just put in that stinker of a performance. Not good enough. David Newell said, result fair enough, but the performance needs to be 100% every game. Yeah, because some of these lads are fighting for their futures, right? Jacko, thank you, mate, for your super chat, and thank you, Connor, for bringing it up on screen. Said, would you, if you can, choose who to win the Premier League or Champions League next season? Sorry. You said I would want Champions League, but winning number 21 would hit hard. No one in England's getting a 6 Champions League soon. Champions League for me next season. I'll tell you why. Because then Arne gets to start completing it. I want us to defend the Premier League. Of course I do. But every season I normally say to you guys, I prefer the European Cup over the league. This year we get level with United at 20. And I can see the appeal as well of getting 21. But if I had to pick one of the two next season, Champions League. I want number 7. I want Arnott to come in and win a Champions League. I want players like Alexis McAllister to win a Champions League. So I'll have a Champions League, a World Cup, a Copa America, a Premier League. So I want some of these players to start completing the set as well. So I would say Champions League. But it's an interesting... Let me ask the chat. Let me get a poll going. 1 second. I'll get this as a poll and we'll get it moving. And we'll see what everybody else thinks. So, 1 second. Let's... Nope, wrong one, Craig. Let's get a poll up. Right. So, LEA. So, league title or... Right, so pick one for next season, league title or Champions League. We'll leave that poll running and we'll come back to it later on and see what you guys have voted. VI Jokers, thank you for being with us as a member for 14 months, said, as champions need to be better against Arsenal. Oh, I've got no doubt in my mind that we will see a far different Liverpool performance against Arsenal next week. No doubt whatsoever. For a couple of reasons. One, you ain't going to get away with a performance like that in front of Anfield when Arsenal come to town. 2, we want to put Arsenal in their place, absolutely, and add to the pressure on them for their second place finish, because if they start dropping more points, they could drop down those league places a few as well. And I feel like they're going to be knocked out of the Champions League on Wednesday, and I want to inflict even more misery. So for me, I would say that game against Arsenal, you will see the real Liverpool. After that, I don't know. Last game of the season, you'll probably see a mixture. But I think for Arsenal next week, I do expect Diaz back in the team. And I expect us to go full strength midfield. Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai. Although I wouldn't mind Endo starting. You know, you could make an argument maybe to throw Endo in with Maka and Gravenberch. Because I loved seeing Endo in the advanced positions today. I thought he looked dynamic. Which we haven't had a chance to see much from him, right? But he is no slouch when he gets on the ball either. Nomad said, I'm greedy and want both. Nothing wrong with being greedy, my man. Nothing wrong with it. We should always hope for the best with regards to trophies. But, you know, I was asked a one or the other question, so I try not to bottle out of it. Craig, who else did you feel wasn't at it today? Well, let's go through the starting 11 really quickly then, and we'll go from there, because I do have some transfer stories I want to get to. So, Alisson, I don't think did that particularly bad, which is weird to say after a 3-0, but if you look at all the goals, not much you can do about any of them. So, Alisson, fine. Trent, disgraceful. Bradley, when he came on, better. Centre-back, Kwanzaa, I think the game perfectly encapsulated where Kwanzaa's at. Some stuff where you think, yeah, looks good. Good decision making. Other stuff looks shaky. A rush of blood to the head for the penalty. Yes, it was absolutely a horrendous pass from Szoboszlai. No getting away from that. But you don't need to make that tackle. You need to be more aware of your surroundings. So Kwanzaa, again, I feel I'm not convinced by. Virgil, look, he's our captain. We know what Virgil's about. Left back Costas was okay. Midfield, Endo very good. Jones took too much out of the ball, as always, runs into blind alleys and really frustrates. Elliott didn't take his opportunity. I thought his touch looked off and he just wasn't able to find space between the lines as well as he does, because there wasn't that much space, because Chelsea were compact and played on the counter, and we are terrible when a team sits back against us with a low block. Moving into the front line, Mohamed Salah was nowhere near the levels he's capable of. His touch was off. His decision-making was off. Every cross or shot was being blocked. To the centre, Diogo Jota was probably the worst player from the starters, in my opinion. That's on the pitch, that was there from the first whistle, followed by Trent. And on the left, I thought Cody Gakpo was all right. I thought he at least tried to make things happen. I thought he was greedy on one occasion. I thought he took too much out of the ball and took a shot where he should have squared it. But it was slim pickings for positivity today. I naively perhaps jumped on the train if we're going big in the summer, seeing reports like the Daily Mail putting caution on it, saying we'll spend smart and won't spend big. Well, let's talk about what Arna's had to say about the summer, right? So you can find this on the Anfield Agenda X account. So Arna Slot on whether this summer will be big. Let me see how you interpret this. He said it's already a big summer because we extended Virgil and Mo for large parts of the season. I don't think everybody expected that. I mean, that's fair. It is good to get those two done, but you don't get credit for that for the summer. That is something that should have been resolved a long time ago, but whilst we're grateful for that as fans, it is nothing to do with the summer. So going in there, he said, for us to keep them is a big thing. I've said already that I'm happy with the squad we have, which is, let's be honest, bullshit. Let's just call a spade a spade. He's not telling the truth. You can't come out and say you're happy with the squad that you have when you don't give Chiesa a chance, when Elliott isn't good enough in your eyes, when centre-back wise we're an injury away from a catastrophe. I don't believe him. Quite frankly, I just don't. And I know he has to say these things. And I never expect a manager to be 100% honest because he has to be respectful as well. But I don't believe for 1 second that he's happy with the squad because his own actions don't indicate he's happy with the squad. On top of that, he said, we'll see what the summer brings, but sometimes it can be good to bring fresh energy. It's already been a good summer and we won the league. Only if we see somebody on the market who can improve us. Well, he best start finding them people in the market who can improve us because you best believe our opponents are going to be going big in the market again. So Chris Bascom, though, has said Liverpool are already on the case. The promise of a big summer to make the country's best even better having been made publicly and privately. That should guarantee that the next time Slot makes wholesale changes to his side, it won't feel like an exhibition match and there will be no compromise in quality. So Chris Bascom's certainly a lot more upbeat about the summer. Arna has to be measured. Again, managers has to say what managers have to say, and they can't be as honest as we'd like them to be a lot of the time. But Chris Bascom's post, I think, and credit Anfield Sector for posting that one, I think that gives me more optimism. You know, that the vibes I'm getting are to expect an impressive summer. Now, I don't know names, but like Chris Bascom said there, publicly and privately, it's been made known that Liverpool are going to make some impressive signings. And again, we'll believe it when we see it, but let's wait and see. There's another story from Madrid Zone, and I swear to God, I hate everything Madrid based. Their fans, their entitlement, all of it. I hate it all. Jacko Super Chat said, when the manager already starts making comments like that and calling extensions huge for the summer, I'm already getting nervous. But I wouldn't expect the manager to say otherwise. Honestly. Remember, he has to go into a dressing room and he can't go in there and after saying they're all shit or something, or half of them are terrible, and also going, by the way, lads, well done for winning the league. So I wouldn't really pay too much attention to what Arna says on it because he has to be pragmatic and he has to be statesmanlike. But I do understand where you're coming from because, of course, the old PTSD kicks in, doesn't it? But let's just talk about this Madrid post for a second because once again, I feel like they're lying. And this comes from Marca. Madrid's own posted it. It said, Jurgen Klopp told Real Madrid a few weeks ago that he's having doubts about becoming a coach again. However, he now regrets it and he believes he should have said yes to Real Madrid. It's too late now as Real Madrid have reached an agreement with Alonso. Fuck you, Marca, is how I respond to that. Because once again, you're full of shit. You're besmirching a good man's name and reputation. And I'm sure Jurgen Klopp has zero regrets about turning down Real Madrid because Real Madrid is everything Jurgen Klopp isn't. Brash, full of it, and there's no way he regrets it. If Jurgen Klopp turned around tomorrow and called Florentino Perez and said, I want a job, then Xabi Alonso would be pushed to one side like that. And make no mistake about it, they are incomparable as managers. Alonso has a great promising coaching career ahead of him and no doubt will be successful. But Jurgen Klopp is the man. Jurgen Klopp can pick up the phone to virtually any club in world football and dictate his own future. And don't try to tell us otherwise. And don't try to tell us he's regretting not taking the Madrid job because you're full of it. He rejected it and he still rejected it because Real Madrid and Jurgen Klopp are not a good fit. And I am sick to death of the Spanish media and their mouthpieces thinking that they can do and say what they want and try to make out like Kloppo now crying in the corner that he turned down Madrid. I'm sure he doesn't give a shite. And it does my head in. Does my head in because he's not a Real Madrid manager. He just isn't. Jurgen Klopp is the very polar opposite of what Real Madrid stand for. So I just wish they'd shut up. Let's talk about Jerel Haaland for a minute, because our opponents today, Chelsea, have held conversations with Ajax about him, but more now, according to Mike Verige, and excuse my pronunciation, he said that lately his name has come up more to be associated with Liverpool and Arsenal than Chelsea. Ajax's Jerel Haaland was being discussed as a left-back option with Bournemouth's Milos Kerkez, said Lewis Steele regarding Liverpool. And look, I think Kerkez is going to be the guy at left-back. And I think Liverpool are trying to just show that they have options by speaking about the likes of Hato and others. And I wouldn't mind Hato coming in as well, by the way, because Hato can operate left-sided centre-back or at left-back. So in a world where we may see Kwanzaa move on and we still need a centre-back, you can maybe see a mad world where both could come in. But again, it will depend on how serious we are about this summer. You know, it's one thing to be told for months about expecting a big summer, but you know, we've all heard that a million times. We want to see action in the market, and let's wait and see what happens with it. So a report from Give Me Sport said Liverpool are considering a move to sign Rodrigo this summer. The Brazilian is open to leaving Real Madrid. That was backed up with a post that said his asking price is about €100 million, and Arsenal have inquired about potentially signing him. I just don't look. Rodrigo's a very good footballer. I struggle to see where he would fit in to our 11 on a week in, week out basis. You know, he's not going to want to leave Madrid to go to another club where maybe he's not going to get as much action as he'd like. And the fact that we have Mohamed Salah on the right and Lucho and Cody on the left means I don't see where the space is there for Rodrigo. Doesn't strike me as a central player. If you were to move Mo central, maybe you could bring him into the right. I think he prefers to operate off the left. So look, I'd take Rodrigo in a heartbeat, but I don't know what the plan would be. And also, I just have questions about Liverpool ponying up that much money. You know, I'm that conditioned as a fan to expect us not to spend that much money, especially after the Darwin one. Like, that was what, €100 million, £85 million, and we're probably going to lose half of that when we sell him. Muckrab said, I assume he plays at striker. I just don't think he is a striker, though. I just don't. But what's really hard to answer, Muckrab, is I don't know what the prerequisite is for a striker for Arne Slot in this Liverpool team. I don't know what type of what's the word I'm looking for? Metrics he wants to measure these players by. Does he want somebody who's strong in the air? Does he want somebody with the pace to get in behind? Does he want somebody who can run the channels? Does he want somebody who can operate in a false nine? You know, we had Jurgen long enough that we knew what Jurgen wanted from a number 9, but what we know now is what Arne has done with the 9s we have who've let him down. So if he has the ability to go out into the market and pick his number 9, I would say that Rodrigo probably wouldn't be that guy. Nico Williams isn't a number 9 either. So, you know, if you're talking number 9s, then it's got to be your Isaks, your Julian Alvarez, Hugo Ekitike, all the other names we've mentioned. Jonathan David on the free has been mentioned. Benjamin Cesco of RB Leipzig, his name has been clarified as being one that Liverpool have been looking at. And I think that would make more sense. Like, Benjamin Cesco, to me, would excite me if Liverpool signed him, because I could see him being an Arne Slot mould of a player, in that he's versatile, he can play a little bit deeper if needs be, and create space for others, and he's also well capable of getting in and scoring goals. So that added to the price point of him just makes me feel like we'd be more likely to go in that direction. But again, you're not going to be disappointed if you sign Rodrigo, are you? You're certainly not going to be sitting at home going, oh, jeez, I can't believe we wasted that money. Because he's a really good footballer. Will Slot get a say in incomings? I would imagine he'd have to. Now, how much of a say, Dave? That's a different conversation. I would imagine it would go something like this. He'll speak with the recruitment staff. And the recruitment staff will put together a list and they'll sit down and they'll talk with Arna and they'll make their case. He'll make his case. And if they're in agreement, should be straightforward. Right, that's the guy. Let's try to go get him. But I'm sure there will be a name or two, like with any manager, that Arna looks at it and thinks, not sure, like Salah with Kloppo. The recruitment staff sat down with Jurgen, who wanted Julian Brandt, and said, this is the guy. The stats point to this being the guy, and they were right. So I think it'll be a bit of both, Dave. I think he will have some say. You carry a bit more weight, don't you, when you've won the Premier League in your first year? You certainly have earned the right to have a little say there. Which players should leave on summer transfer? Said Galileo Beast, and thank you, my friend, for your super chat. The ones we've spoken about: Darwin, Jota, Elliot, maybe, but not because of us fans wanting him, but because likely he's not in the manager's plans. Chiesa, you'd have to say, is surely nailed on to go at this point. And then a left back, depending on probably Costas. Other than that, I think we don't know what's going to happen with Canade, so we have to get clarity on his contract. But if Canade stays, I feel even more so that we should sell Kwanzaa. How do you guys feel about Kwanzaa? Like, do you think we should cash in, let's say, to try and make space or get money for a Huijsen? Because I would feel like that's an upgrade. And if you got 40 million for Kwanzaa and spent 50 million on Huijsen, I think that's upgrading the squad. And I think that if Canade was injured or Virgil was injured, I'd feel far calmer about Huijsen playing 6 or 8 league games in a row than I would about Kwanzaa doing it. Because the measuring stick is high now. We're the champions. And the aim is to go out and repeat that process. And this season, whether it be good management from Arna and Sipke and Ruben Peters to keep these guys fit and available, or whether we got a bit lucky as well with not having a serious injury to Virgil or Ryan Gravenberch, or a mixture of both. So for me, it wouldn't be comparable. If we needed to bring in money for a centre-back and we had to make way, Kwanzaa would be the first one out the door for me. And Joe Gomez, I think, has earned the right to dictate what he wants to do with his future. So if he asks for a move away, maybe the club facilitate it. If he wants to stay, I think we'd all be happy for him to stay. Billy, thank you, mate, for your super chat. Appreciate you. Said, is there any news on Ekitike gone quiet? Look, I'll be honest with you, mate. I've always said I don't know specific names on exactly who the targets are in certain areas. Like, I know I've said this about Huijsen. I know Liverpool are his preferred destination. I've said this before. But what I don't know is whether Liverpool will get to the point with Bournemouth where they can make that deal happen. Reports suggest that we're not going to try to push our luck with Bournemouth yet, as they're still pushing for a European spot, so we're trying to be respectful. I think Kirkes, if I'm being honest with you, the gut feeling I have, and it is just that, is that that's as close to being a done deal as possible. But yeah, on the forward front, mate, I wouldn't know who to say to you as the leading candidate. I wouldn't have a clue. The names been mentioned lately have been Cesco and Ekitike. After that, it's just Isak, who seems unlikely. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know. I would not know who to say to you right now who the favourite is to sign through the middle. Okay, let me catch up. Craig, I asked a few months ago about us selling Sepp, and you said we never replaced him, so we can't bring in Huijsen without selling Kwanzaa. So, look, firstly, Mukrab, I agree with you, and I stand by what I said, because I still think we're a centre-back short of what we should have for now. So, in my opinion, mate, if everybody stayed, I'd still want us to sign Huijsen, because I still think we need that extra body. But if, let's say, we sold Kwanzaa and brought in Huijsen, Well, you've got 3 and Joe Gomez, who's versatile. But you're right. I'd look at a younger one. So whether that's Nalo's potential coming through, or whether that's a young up and coming centre back from somewhere else. I do think, yeah, I 5. I think you need 5 centre backs at a club like Liverpool. One of them could be a youngster, but you need 4 first team centre backs minimum. So yeah, I remember having that conversation with you, and we haven't replaced a few, by the way. We haven't replaced Matip either. So how many centre backs do we have to see leave the club before we actually realise we need to replace 1 or 2 of them? Nat Phillips going to be gone as well. His contract will be up. Reece Williams isn't, that's done and dusted. So yeah, but what we will hear is if I said to the media that I want Liverpool to just bring in Højlund and keep everybody else, the question is going to be, well, where are the space for them? So as a fan, I want 5, but the club, I think, view 4 is enough, if that makes sense. But it's a fair point you've raised. Would you take Bowen from West Ham if the price was right? No, not now. Again, too short-sighted. Jared Bowen is what, 28, 29? No. If Mohamed Salah had have gone, yeah, for the right price I would have. But with Mo staying, no. I want young Rio to have a pathway through, and I don't want that to be blocked. So, whether he operates from the left or right, we'll wait and see. Because Diaz can operate on the right as well if Salah needs a rest. So I love Jared Bowen. I think he's a wonderful footballer, but I think Embuemo would be far, far more likely. And actually, while we're talking about targets, I have a feeling we could be in a conversation for Brian Embuemo. I'd love to bring in Cesco and Embuemo and move out Darwin and Jota. That to me would be a brilliant upgrade. A realistic upgrade price-wise, and a brilliant upgrade to the squad. Or if they want a Kitike and Embuemo. Brian Embuemo to me is so underrated, so hard working. Still, I think 24 years of age, maybe 25. Premier League proven, is a battler, presses, fights, and does everything that Arne Slot would want, which is work hard. So yeah, Embuemo for me would be ideal along with a centre forward. I don't know if everybody else feels similarly, but I'm a big fan of his. Muckrab said, well, as I said before, get rid of everyone that we loan, rinse and repeat. That simply aren't a standard. Absolutely. And I agree with you, mate. There are so many players that I could go through the Liverpool squad and say aren't going to make the grade. Tyler Morton, not going to make the grade. Ben Doak, Liverpool, don't see him in the future. Harvey Elliott, Arne Slot clearly doesn't. I'll be ruthless about it and go through every single position. So, right, goalkeeper, you all know that situation. Mamardashvili's coming in, Kelleher's going to go. Right back, we need to bring somebody in if and when Trent leaves to both push Conor Bradley and be available as a replacement if Bradley's injured. Centre backs, I would sell Kwanzaa tomorrow because I don't think he's going to make the grade, and I would bring in Højlund. Canade's contract situation is going to dictate whether he stays or goes. Joe Gomez, I feel, has earned the right to decide what he wants to do. Left back, I would sell Costas. Central midfield, we mentioned Elliott. I think he'll move on. Endo, I'd be keeping around. I honestly would. If Endo's happy to stay at the club and be backup or a bit part player, I think he's a great man to have around, so I'd keep him. I would sell Tyler Morton. I would not sell Trainioni, but I'd probably consider a loan or what the best pathway for him is. Left side of attack, I like both the guys we have there. I would sell Jota. I would sell Darwin. And then go through some of the fringe players who was out on loan. I think the likes of Cade Gordon, we should be honest with ourselves and say he's probably not going to make it at Liverpool at this point because of injuries and whatnot. Don't know what the best situation is with Calvin Ramsey, what to do there. We've never really seen much of him break through because of injuries and that as well. And I could probably keep going with more players around. Like, what do you do with Owen Beck? You're going to have to make a decision on Owen Beck's future. Is Owen Beck going to make it or not? If not, what's the point in just loaning these guys out season after season after season after season? It's got to be just to increase the value, because let's be honest, of all the names I mentioned there, I don't think any of them are going to be in a Liverpool starting 11 in the next 3 years. Doak, I think, gets sold, Tanya. 30 million quid upwards seems to be the number for him. Everton have been interested, as our... God, who was the other team that was mentioned? There was another Premier League team mentioned recently who were interested in Doak. Excuse me, I can't remember who it is. Dave said, I will keep Squastis. Oh, God, Dave, I can't even speak, mate. I will keep Costas as a squad player. Robertson has been a legend, but is washed now. But I think with Robertson, you've got one more year when his contract's up anyway. So you're not going to get much money either way. And I think the benefits of keeping him outweigh the selling him and getting what? A small few million. I think get your money for Costas. Bring in your left back. Give Robbo 6 months of the season, see how he's getting on. If he can stay fit and he's competing, maybe a small extension. But I just think financially it makes more sense to put your eggs in the young left back with Kirkes or whomever it might be, and then move on Costas. Costas, though, I've got to say, he seems like such a lovely fella. And I know a few people who have bumped into him and always say he's a nice guy. So I definitely have nothing against Costas, but I've always felt like he's never going to be good enough to be the starting left back. John and Tom Verner outside sell Kelleher, Kwanzaa, Elliot Morton, Doe, Chiesa, Darwin, Jota. So let me go through that list. Yes, 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 yes. But two of those yeses are because the manager won't play them. So Elliot, look, deep down I think Aaron is probably right about Elliot and Liverpool. As much as it pains me to say it because I really, really, really like Harvey Elliott, I do think Arna probably is right in that where is he going to break through and play week in and week out? And it's very well and good to say keep him as an impact player off the bench, but what about the weeks we want to rotate? We've seen when he starts games, he doesn't really do what he seems to be able to do when he comes off the bench. And Chiesa, look, the simple answer there is the manager isn't going to play him, so for that reason I agree with the sales. But regards to your purchases, you've said Kirkes, yep. Huyson, yep. Akitika, I'm taking a leap of faith there because I haven't seen enough of him, as I've been honest about. Brian and Mbuemo, absolutely. Maybe Cherky for 25 million as well. Cherky's been linked with us. He's been linked with Manchester United and will leave Lyon this summer. I've always gotten a mixed response when I've tried to ask about the interest in him. Some people think it isn't really there and others think it is, so I don't know what to believe on that one. Young, cheap and cheerful, out on loan. Cheers, John. You're a grand pointless twat. Alec, I agree with you. Look, you know my thoughts on the owner. Or owners, I should say. Cheap, like you've said. So, it wasn't you, and it wasn't me, and it wasn't other people in the chat who started the promise of the big summer. You know, that was briefed. That was briefed to journalists. That was briefed to people in the football world that Liverpool are going to have a big summer. So I think we get to have the best of both worlds now because we get to sit back and go, right, you've painted yourself into a corner, prove it. And if they don't prove it, I think this will be the summer that Liverpool fans finally have no comeback with, give them the benefit of the doubt, or we won this or that. Spend the money this summer after a year of being miserly, or just admit that you've no interest in being successful. And let's see what happens. We all want it to be a good summer, but again, it's asking us to take a big leap of faith to just blankly believe that it's going to be a historic summer because we've been here and heard that many times. And in a weird way, winning the league, you can probably see how that might embolden the likes of the owners to go, see? It can be done. What do you think about Samu from Atletico Madrid? Don't know enough about him, Joshua. Sorry. Haven't really paid too much attention to him. So my apologies on that one. And I can't be of any better help to you. Think Kudus would be a great signing for us. Yeah, but 80 million, which is the buyout clause. And Mohamed Kudus, there's been times I've looked at him and thought this kid is incredible. And other times I've looked at him and think that he's frustrating and goes missing. So for the 80 million part, I wouldn't be triggering that clause at 80 million. I think it's too much. What else we got? I personally want the lap, said Muckrab. Knows where the net is and is decent in the air, then maybe revisit Salah. Look, the best of my understanding, the lap's going to Chelsea. That's where a couple of people have said to me they expect him to end up. So don't be surprised if that's the case. United wanted him, but I think he's going to end up at Chelsea. And I can see why from his regard, because they are still crying out for that striker. They are looking for that younger player. And at 30 million quid, even if he doesn't work out, Chelsea can probably feel like they can move him on somewhere else. So, yeah, I just think that's where he ends up. Bet we get Jonathan David, who's nice and cheap. I hope we don't. I hope we don't get Jonathan David, because that isn't the sensational summer that we're all thinking of. The only way I'd accept Jonathan David is if we had to go out and spend enough money on a Julian Alvarez or an Alexander Isak that there was no more money in the striking department, and that was a good free transfer. That's the only way I think I'd accept it personally. And even at that, I'd still feel like they were being cheap. Mukrab said Kudus is way too inconsistent and has a temper. Well, see, I kind of do like players who play on the edge. So if you look at some of the Premier League greats, you look at Steven Gerrard, Wayne Rooney, even in Alan Shearer to some extent, they play on the edge. They play with a physicality. And sometimes that physicality can boil over into stupidity, and it's happened to pretty much all the players I think I've mentioned. But that, I wouldn't have any questions about his temperament. It's more his work rate that I'd have the questions about. Is Alvarez available? It depends who you ask, Scotty. Some reports in Spain suggest that he's unhappy with how the season has gone with Atleti. I think this is the first year in his career he hasn't won a trophy as well, if I'm not mistaken. So it depends who you ask. Some people say not a chance in hell Atletico will sell him, and others say that there is an opportunity that they'll sell him and that he may want out. So the truth is, I don't know which one of those is correct. Sam Maguire did a report to say that we tried to sign him when he was leaving Man City and that we were willing to use Diaz, but I think Diaz has played his way into a new contract, in all honesty. That and the situation at Barcelona never really materialised where they were going to put forward the offer, because Rafinha's been having an incredible season. So I think all those things combined probably makes it likely we'll see Diaz get a new deal, and I think he's earned it. Have you seen Rodrigo Ribeiro from Sporting? Nope. When I've watched Sporting, I've looked at Trincao, I've looked at obviously Gyökeres, and a little bit across the back line. Sometimes actually Hulman. Keep an eye on him a little bit as well, but no, genuinely haven't paid attention. I'm really weird because if I go watch teams, I only specifically follow players that I'm there to look at. I don't really pay attention to the rest of the game, but I will follow the particular player and just watch him go around the pitch. So if it's Gyökeres, I'll spend time just looking at his movement, or Hulman, I'll spend time looking at him in midfield. But we have had scouts over in, where was it confirmed the scouts were at in the last while? We had scouts, where was it? I know we had scouts at Ajax. I think we had scouts at Real Betis. And where was the other? I think I have it on my notes still. 1 second. Just going to go through my notes to see what this was. Yeah, it was. We had scouts at RB Leipzig on Saturday, watching Xavi Simons and Benjamin Cesco. I'm trying to find where. Obviously, we've got links to Angelo Stiller as well of Stuttgart. Where was? I'm just going back through my notes. Akitic and Cesco have been mentioned by Pierce. Yep, sorry, I don't seem to have it in my notes what the other team was, but I remember Betis was one of them. Leipzig as well, Muckrub. Yeah, we definitely have. Oh, I hope we don't sign. Am I the only one, by the way, who isn't won over by Xavi Simons? At 70 million quid, I'd be unsure. I would. But I would trust Arne. If Arne thinks he's the guy, fair enough. But if it was me, I'm unsure. You know, I've seen some stuff, I've watched them and I thought, oh my God, this kid is amazing. And then other times, along with what you read reported about his ego, I'd be unsure. But Arne would know far better than me. You know, he'd have his contacts in Dutch football that would be able to give him a far better assessment of the kid's character. Right, let's check back in on the poll. So we did ask, pick one for next season. Oh, this is close, ladies and gents. I'm going to keep it going till we try to get to the 1,000 votes. But we asked you to pick one for next season, the Premier League or the Champions League. I'm going to leave it running a bit longer because of how close it is. There's only 1 or 2% between the two of them. Scouts in Brazil, Dave said. Muckrab said, I hate Xavi Simons, poor attitude, prima donna, can't handle being in a team where he's a normal player, not a star. Yeah, look, that fits with the kind of narrative that I've seen about him. But again, I heard that about Danny Sturridge as well. And then Danny Sturridge came to the club and was the polar opposite of all of that. Always helpful to younger players. And any reports about Sturridge in and around the training ground and all were always glowing. So yeah, sometimes these narratives are crap. Sometimes there's something to them. But again, I would definitely trust Arne Slot's judgment in that regard. TOTT 2KZ1, how are you, my friend? Would you guys believe that my daughter was actually in the Hot Water Comedy Club tonight? She went over to Liverpool today for a couple of days for her birthday and ended up making her way down to the Hot Water tonight for some food and a few drinks and absolutely loved it. So there you go. It gets my daughter's seal of approval. So if you do want to come along and see us, well, you know where you can get your tickets. May 25th, May 28th, both venues or both shows at the same venue, and we hope to see you there. Right, so as long as we bring in players that Slot can trust and we'll bring in quality into the squad for when we need to rotate, I'm happy. Wedding book, Craig, 21st of May, 2029. Yours and family invite will be on the way. 2029? Jesus, mate, you're really putting that on the long finger. I didn't even know you could book weddings that far in advance. 2029. God, I'd be old then. Older. 2029. I mean, I think I'll have to hang off on the RSVP till a bit closer till I know if I'm still on this planet or not, dude. But nice one to get it booked in. And my offer of officiating still stands. Did somebody actually say Jamie Vardy in the chat? Lunatics. Vardy. Somebody said, Craig, the other club we were at was River Plate. Yes, and credit Robert in the chat. Thank you, Muckrab, and thank you for the credit to Robert as well. Yeah, I think everybody was over there watching that young Mastinuano guy who looks like he is ridiculously good, 17 years of age, and has every top club in Europe after him. And I think his release clause is only about 40 million quid as well. Hand on heart, though, I think he ends up in Spain. It just strikes me as one of those deals that Madrid or Barca will pull out of their backside. Have you seen that kid? Looks just ridiculous. I seen the free kick he scored in the Super Classico as well. Just he looks legit for 17 as well. John and Tom Werner outside saw Lewis Steele reporting yesterday that we've had scouts at River Plate wondering if we're going to sign somebody unexpected like Mastuano. Wouldn't surprise me. Look, I have no doubt Liverpool would take him tomorrow, and he is a very Michael Edwards type of signing. And if we bring him in, if there is a way Liverpool can beat everybody to his signature, then you will see a superstar. But I'm always very skeptical when we see Liverpool linked with players in Brazil and Argentina, because more often than not, when's the last time we actually brought in a player from that part of the world that comes direct from that part of the world that has broken through? We signed that young kid who ended up being loaned around Europe for 3 or 4 years, couldn't get a work permit, and seemingly hasn't made his mark in European football either. But he's the real deal, that youngster you're speaking about. And if we were to be able to land him, that would be one of the biggest coups of the summer, full stop. Maybe we could get Mackett in his ear. I don't know if Alexis McAllister could have a word with him or whatever, but yeah, that would be incredible. People wanting Vardy. Genuinely, that one has me stumped, lads. Why anybody be looking at Jamie Vardy? That's a mad one. Jamie Vardy. No, I wouldn't take Vardy on a free, honestly. No, he's just, I don't know, he's just a player that does not strike me as a Liverpool player. And I don't like him either. I don't like him one bit. He's one of those players that I've just never liked. Appreciate what he's done in his career, and fighting his way from non-league football into the Premier League and winning the Premier League. Look, his story is incredible, but I just don't like him. What's the River Plate lad's position? I think he's an attacking midfielder. I think. But again, I'm a bit of a Johnny-come-lately to this story. But I think he's attacking midfielder. But don't quote me on that one. Somebody in the chat will probably know. But to the best of my recollection, I think that's where he plays. Yeah, but if I'm wrong, apologies. David, I can't read out that comment about Vardy, mate. It did make me chuckle, but I can't read it out. John and Tom Verner out said he's attacking midfielder and can play as a winger as well. So there you go. Versatile, and we do love a bit of versatility, so you never know, maybe. So what's going on in the Grand Prix, by the way? I'm sure many of you guys and girls have the Grand Prix on in the background. Do let me know what's going on there. It's been an interesting qualification. I'm a very fair weather person. I dip in and out of the F1, but I always do find it fascinating to see which car manufacturer gets up to speed the quickest and starts off the seasons well. And you remember having Manquillo? Yeah, I remember Manquillo. We ended up then at Newcastle. He was all right, I thought he was fairly decent, Javier Manquillo. Yeah, but ended up at Newcastle for quite a bit, if my memory's correct. That's an interesting shout, though. Don't forget we have Trey Morris-Nioni. Yeah, we do. There's some young players at our club that it's just a matter of time. And Trey Morris-Nioni and young Rio would be two of those that I would say it's just a matter of time. And as well, when we're talking about forwards, well, we do have a special young talent as well, but we need to make sure that he can get minutes under his belt. So, yeah, let's hope the back injuries can be put behind him and he can get minutes. I think a loan probably best next season for that. And of course, we've got young Lewis Kumas as well, who's out on loan. It'll be interesting to see if he's loaned out again or sold. Still looking at the 29th, mate. That's nuts. Colin said, Craig, that matter of time is now. Which player are we talking about with the matter of time? Because I've mentioned a few of them there. Don't forget McConnell. He rises to the occasion. Yeah, I like James McConnell. James McConnell's an interesting shout as well. Yeah, it's a good. I'm actually just trying to think out loud now what will happen with McConnell, because I do think he's certainly shown Arne Slot that there's something about him. And like you've said, every time he's on the pitch, I never feel let down. But I felt that way as well about the young kid that went to Salzburg, Bobby Clark. I always thought Bobby Clark had something about him as well. But obviously something happened because he didn't seem to leave Liverpool in great terms. But yeah, he was another player that I think always did himself well when he came on. But, that big step up is a daunting one. And I don't know if McConnell's ready for that just yet. So maybe a loan for him. He didn't get to go out on loan at the end of the season because of Tyler Morton's injury. I think the plan was to keep Tyler Morton and loan out James McConnell, but Tyler Morton, I think shoulder injury, if my memory's right, stopped that from happening. Corbin said FSG have to invest. If we don't, top four will be it. Yeah, I mean, somebody asked me today in the watch along if that was the team for next season, where would we end up? And I think I said somewhere like fourth or fifth. So I agree, we do have to invest because people can feel like there's no competition. Mo needs to be pushed. Mo needs somebody that he feels if he's not performing, he'll be taken off for. Virgil needs proper competition or rotation as well. Bradley at right back will need it if Trent leaves. And there are other positions like I think Gravenberch needs somebody to come in and put pressure on him, whether that's by Cecic or not. Let's wait and see. So, God, as I'm sitting here, talking through some of the youngsters that are at the club, especially the likes of Kumas, I'm very intrigued to see because Kumas never lets himself down when he plays either. Got a couple of goals in the League Cup game, if my memory's not mistaken. Carvalho hasn't kicked on since we sold him. Nope, you're right, he hasn't. But Sepp van den Berg is certainly starting to establish himself, and I do like that Sepp van den Berg has spoken about the fact that he'd still love to come back to Liverpool someday. Brewster ended up doing nothing. Well, yeah, unfortunately, that was a strange move though. Like Sheffield United didn't strike me as the type of team that were going to get the most out of Ryan Brewster's attributes. That one genuinely did surprise me. It was a style of football that I just didn't think was a good fit. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm just thinking again, just thinking through out loud. Always, he would have been one I would have put in the category of would have bet my life he'd have been a success. Because, he came through as a kid and just scoring ridiculous amounts at underage level, particularly for England as well when he was a World Cup winner. But yeah, I just didn't feel like the right move from, did it? If he had gone to somewhere like Leeds, as an example, or Sunderland, or Sheffield United style of football doesn't strike me as one that would get the most out of Ryan Brewster. Gonna get another Premier League trophy for the background. Well, we probably are going to change the studio as we do each summer. We usually try to upgrade it a little bit. We'll probably keep this one as a backup as well. And we're going to get another one for the back. No, because the whole idea is that we had just one of each trophy there, the two biggest ones. Because, I could technically have 20 league titles there and 6 European Cups, but I think one of each is enough. Kumas, I think, scored a near post deflection in the Cup against Southampton last season. I think he scored two. And yeah, I'm almost sorry, I'm thinking out loud here again. Yeah, I think he scored two. My memory says he scored two anyway, but I'm upset we sold Kent. He looked really promising. The one that really I would have again bet my life on was Jordan Ibe. I remember watching Jordan Ibe play in Dublin against Celtic in the Aviva Stadium. I remember watching him warm up and saying to my wife, that kid there is only 16. And I was sure he was going to become Raheem Sterling 2.0 or better. And it just petered out. And Andre Wisdom was another name of a player I thought was going to end up doing well, whose name just kind of never really... He went to Derby County, I think. But yeah, Jordan Ibe would have 100%... was it Jaden Dans who got the two in that game? I thought it was Jaden Dans got one and Kumas got two. Sorry, Muckrab, I must have got that wrong in my head. I was sure it was Dans who got one and Kumas got two. But either way, yeah, they came on and made a difference and scored. Dans, I think, needs that loan, though, just to prove that he can play the minutes. Not to prove his quality, but just like Stefan Bajcetic, he needs to see if he can put those injury concerns behind him and get into a rhythm, because that move to Sunderland would have been great for him. So I'm intrigued to see what happens with him. Will he get pre-season or will he be sent out on loan early? Dans would have done a better job than Nunes today. Absolutely. If Jaden Dans was fit, I would have been almost sure he'd have gotten a run out at this point, because it must be really difficult for Arne Slot thinking, who do I play, Jota or Darwin? Because both of them at the minute aren't in any form whatsoever. And the only other option then is to shoehorn Diaz through the middle. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Jayden Danns. I hope him and Bradley can put their injury concerns behind them, because two very, very, very talented footballers. And I thought Bradley showed more in his cameo today than Trent did in his entirety on the pitch. More aggression, more dynamism, if that's the right word. More, not power. Aggression, power, pace, directness, without the ego. I still cannot believe that header from Darwin Núñez. I've watched it back probably 4 times. One, I would have been unsure if he was onside, because I think he may have slightly been leaning offside. But then the state of the header, honest to God, lads, I probably could have done better than that with my eyes closed. You probably could have done better than that with your eyes closed. How do you put it 12 yards wide from 6 yards out? Haris said, could play a double 10 system again with Curtis and Soboslai. Yeah, look, does the Arsenal game matter to you guys next week? Because, there's a lot of people today saying, Craig, we've won the league. Don't be getting stressed about it. Does the Arsenal game matter to you guys next week? Because I tell you what, it definitely matters to me. I want to see Lego head in tears on the sideline. I don't want to see any happiness out of him whatsoever, or any joy, or give those Arsenal fans any encouragement at all. Right, we only need 44 more votes to get to 1,000 votes in this poll, and there's 1% in it. 1 little percent in it. So who's going to win next season? Pick one: Premier League title or Champions League. 1% in it at the minute. Your vote could genuinely make a difference. Carl said, yes, the Arsenal game means a lot. The Darwin header was a clearance, not a finish, said Madeni. Definitely matters, said Rob Wilson. David said, as long as they show fight. To be honest, Arsenal fans have the biggest mouths in the Premier League. I want them to lose. Well, it'll be an interesting end to the season for them if they get knocked out on Wednesday. If we beat them, and then they could start falling down to 3rd or 4th or 5th. Look, they're not going to drop out of the Champions League places, but it would be a very fun end to the season if they dropped down from 2nd place and ended up finishing 3rd or 4th and not winning a trophy as well. I would feel quite smug about that. I can't lie, I will. I'll feel smug about it, because there's an arrogance there that hasn't been earned yet from some of their fans. And look, they've improved in recent years. There's no denying that. But you fucking would want to after spending 100 million on Declan Rice and some of the other money. Jaden said, if I'm honest, not really. Oh, Jaden, come on. So if we lost next week to Arsenal, you wouldn't be annoyed by some of the posting on socials or whatever. And at home as well, mate. Oh, I get where you're coming from, but I think it would probably annoy you a little bit more than you think. Dave said, I can see Manchester City finishing 2nd. So what do we think about Forest? Are Forest going to make it? I was looking at their fixtures. Obviously, they've got a game in hand tomorrow night. If they win that game in hand, they're going to be behind Chelsea on goal difference, but they play Chelsea on the last day of the season. What a game that is. The Champions League spot could be on the line at the City ground. Forest Chelsea, last game of the season. That could be epic. And I would... Oh, I'd love it to be a shithouse penalty or some even potentially controversial VAR decision just against Arsenal, just to see the... I can only imagine. Imagine Arsenal dropped out of the 2nd or 3rd spot and fell down to 3rd or 4th, and Spurs won the Europa League. That would be incredible. Anyway, sorry, City, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea last day of the season. Oh, that would be such an interesting game to see who actually gets over the line. Especially because I think Forest might need the win, because Chelsea have the better goal difference. That would be so interesting. 2 wins in 5 for Forest. Yeah, but they have a difficult end to the season as well. Newcastle, I think, will make it. I think they're going to confirm the top 5 spot. City will be there. Arsenal will be there. Will be there. For me, in my head, there's only really one spot left. And that's between Chelsea, Villa, and Forest. Yeah. For me, in my head, 3 of them fighting for one spot. But I may be wrong. Right, we've now had 1,000 votes. And after 1,000 votes, 51% of people said next season they would like to win the Premier League title, and 49% said the Champions League. That's how close it is. And the only fair thing to do was to win both, right? That's the best way to appease us all. The big question is, where are Everton and Manchester United? United are below Everton in the league, lads. Like, United are on 39 points after 35 games. It's nuts how bad them and Spurs have been in the league. What is it? 16 losses now in the Premier League for United this season. 16. Let's hope finishing first in Premier League doesn't bite us in the arse for next season's group stage. I don't think it'll make a difference, really. Yeah, I don't know what to want next year from the group stage, because I don't want us to peak too early and then fall out, but I don't want us to be struggling for the top 8. It's going to be an interesting one next season, yeah, because we didn't exactly get an easy path this season for finishing top of the league format, did we? Although we did screw ourselves there with the result against PSV over in Holland. If we had gotten a draw in that game, at least we would have ended up playing a different opponent, not Paris Saint-Germain, but it is what it is. Back-to-back win in the Premier League. I want back-to-back titles, said Michael. Look, it would be epic, Michael. Absolutely epic. And it would be a real defining era where there is no comeback from that. There is no, oh, it was one shit league or it was blah, blah. Going back-to-back, you can't argue with that. You just say that is what makes you then a great team. Defending the Premier League title, yeah. But look, I would say either of those trophies next year, and I'm a very happy Liverpool fan. If United lose all the games and West Ham win, are United relegated? No. United can't get relegated. Mathematically, it's impossible. The relegation spots have already been decided. And there's none up for grabs, unfortunately. I was trying to work out that earlier on myself, looking at the league table, but no, it's done and dusted. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to go record a really quick update news video. I will see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll have a 4:30 video. We will have the late night agenda, and there'll be a news video tomorrow as well. Appreciate you guys coming back in for a quick chat tonight. And again, appreciate all of your support as always. And what has been another record month for the channel. Wasn't the result that we'd hoped for today, but let's hope for a busy and productive summer. And we go back in next season and fight to regain this Premier League title. Have a wonderful bank holiday weekend. And I will catch up with you guys tomorrow. Thank you for dropping in. Much love. Bye-bye.